I'm Paige Toon and I am here in beautiful Norway about to chat to the lovely Louise Pentland, who I'm hoping is going to be requesting to join my feed in just a moment. Lots of other lovely people joining in. Nice to see you all. Thank you very much for coming along. We're going to be chatting about lots of books tonight, but especially our own. That is the main truth of it. I'm just having a look to see if Louise is asked to join yet. I'm not brilliant on... Oh, there we go. Here she is. Here she is. Oh, now we can properly get started. She's waiting for Louise Pentland to join. I'm actually really rubbish at technology, but here she is! We did it! Yay!
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. You are in like the most stunning location.
You don't want to see me, do you? Like, it's better if I just sort of like show you.
Beautiful. Wow. Nice.
It's so lovely. It's really, it's beautiful here.
How are
Norway.
you?
Gorgeous. I'm good. How are you?
I've got a visitor actually that's just come to join me.
Who's this? Oh, hello.
Rocky.
Gorgeous.
So it's your pub day tomorrow, and for those who don't know, pub day, going to the pub day, although we should be, it's publication. Yeah. How are you feeling?
Oh, it's been a long wait, you know, because this book came out in ebook. It was supposed to come out on the 14th of May, but because of COVID-19, we pushed the paperback back. So yeah, it's hopefully worth the wait for lots of people. I did bring a copy over. I've walked quite far from my campsite, so I hope I'm not breaking up at all, because the campsite's over there, and that's my family are actually sitting on a beach over there with a little fire going and the dog. And I've walked over here with my glass of wine and a copy of my book.
Great evening. I've happened to walk really far away from the kids and have a glass of wine and in my own, you know.
You're chopping up a little bit, so I don't know whether or not that's my phone connection. So I'm just basically going to leave everything on the beach and hope that, that things improve.
Can you hear us all right? Over the comments, because I can hear
loads of. Can you hear me all right? Yeah, you're chopping up a little bit, so I don't know if that's that's just me. Can everybody else hear Louise and me both well?
Hope so. I'm on my Wi-Fi, so I'll just carry on and do my best. Keep calm and carry on. Louise, up. Oh no.
Oh, good. So I can go back to my camp chair. It's not my problem.
Sometimes filter off, it helps. It's almost like the filter is working too hard. Let me know if that's any. If not, okay, I will log out and log back in again.
Okay, I'm just so relieved that I can just sit back down here on my camp chair and not have to do anything. Yeah, somebody said it sounds better. Yeah, you are still breaking up a little bit according to the readers. But how are you feeling about tomorrow, your pub date?
Well, yeah, it's my pub date. We should both hold our books up for a second, like this.
Yeah. Oh, yours is upside down, and back the front. Oh, I absolutely loved your book, Louise. Because I know you first and foremost as an author. We've met through doing book events and book tours and.
Haven't we?
Yeah. We've had a few inappropriate moments which we won't speak about here. But yeah, so I know you most as an author. So for me, reading this was really enlightening, and I absolutely loved it. Like, I was so blown away by your story and everything that you've been through, and just your like whole mum philosophy. It really touched me. I cried a little bit, and I laughed out loud. I love the way you write. I think you're just so funny and just so warm and witty. And I was really, really blown away. I loved it.
Paige, you are so lovely, and I am about to sound like a total knobhead because I didn't think of this till the very end. So I have not managed to read yours yet, but I will. If writing, you can't read anything else, because I will steal people's work if I write whilst I'm reading someone else's. Like if I read yours or Lindsay's particularly, I steal their phrases and then put them in my book, and then I'm like, because it was in my head. So
Lindsay's the same. She can't read anything. You know, Lindsay Kelk we're talking about, for anyone who's not for first name terms. I remember her saying the same thing. You know, she doesn't like reading when she's writing, but I find it, I really like it because, you know, sometimes I didn't used to when I first started writing. I found it massively daunting.
You're like a pro. What number book is this? Put me to shame.
This is officially number 18, including a short story collection.
That's cool. Like imagine if you totted up all the words that is and all the words that get chopped out in the edit, how much you've written.
I know. I have written over 2 million words, I reckon.
Oh my God.
Just in my book career, I reckon. Oh, Robin, I've just seen I'm just going to ask you this question. What made you decide to be a writer?
I fell into it because I was a blogger, so I really enjoyed blogging. And I'll be really honest, I like writing blog posts because they're short. They're like 500 to 1,000 words. And when I was approached to write a book, I thought, oh, that'll be easy. It'll be like writing. And I was wrong. It's not easy. And I've had I've had like a fast track into publishing. A lot of people have to work a lot harder than I did to get there. So I always feel slightly guilty when people ask that question. So I was approached in 2014. So I said, would you write a book a bit like your blog? And I was like, okay. So I did. And then I caught the bug for it, but I didn't have the bug first. So I always feel really awkward. So I'm like, oh, sorry. If you're
awkward. You've still done it. That's amazing. In fact, what I thought was really lovely, you know, is like in your acknowledgements when you talked about, you know, writing this book and how you had some help, like with just the drafting and sort of like you obviously interviewed in depth, you know, and I just thought I was really impressed with that because so many people, because you wrote all of your other books without any help, and but you say in the back of this one, you know, this may surprise some of you, but you know, I actually had a little bit of help. This is the first book I've had help with writing, and then but that was just. And then you just gave this, you know, the writer such a lovely credit, which I thought was so nice because so many people would not admit to that, you know, like if someone was helping them. And I thought that was lovely. It reads so much like yours because, you know, it's obvious you've massively put your stamp on it because, you know, you've like all of the like the things I was laughing out loud, you know, like the stuff, the little sort of asides and, you know, you talking to the reader, you know, just your personality just absolutely shone through so brilliantly.
Yeah, I think we'll touch on this, then we're going to talk about your book. I had help with this book, and you're right, it was the first time. And if I'm really brutal, last year I went to my publisher and said, I can't write another book. I don't have another story, because I'd been in the Wild trilogy for so long. If you're new, I wrote 3 books about a woman called Robin Wilde. And I was like, I can't get out of that. I can't think of new people, so I need a break. And so they said, what about something about motherhood? I was like, I would love to write something about motherhood, but I just don't have time. And they said, well, we'll get you some help. And what you'll do is you'll have a series of phone calls. We interviewed the person that I would be writing with, Lucy, amazing woman. And when I met her, I just really gelled with her. And I was like, yes, you're the woman I want to pour my heart out to. And so I would have these like 2-hour-long phone calls with her a couple of times a week. And then she would kind of just write down my brain dump. And I think that it's much easier just to verbally brain dump for me. And it's what I'm used to. I'm a vlogger, so I'm used to talking. Yeah. And then I read it all and I thought, oh, it'll be so easy. This is the thing of mine. I always think everything's going to be so easy. I was like, this will be so easy because she'll just write it all and I'll just sign it off. But then when I read it, I remembered I'm a control freak. And I was like, no. So I rewrote it. But having her initially put pen to paper was so helpful to me because then I could fiddle around and tweak, and I already had all my thoughts on paper. Didn't have to do that bit again. So I rewrote it and put all my Louisiness in it, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. But there was a moment where I read it and I was like, I don't know. And the thought of not crediting someone for work, I just think is wrong. I think that you should credit someone for the work, and I know that a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to let anyone know, but I don't I don't feel ashamed. I think it was a great process, and to have another woman, she worked very hard and did her job very well, and she deserves the thanks for that. So there we are.
Yeah, that's really, really good, really, really commendable. I thought, you know, to give credit where credit was due, but it was so obvious you'd like put your massive stamp on it, you know, because it was just, you know, your whole personality just massively shone through, and I absolutely loved it. Like I say, it made me cry, it made me laugh out loud, and I was just so moved by it. I got, you know, it was quite emotional. You know, it made me remember, you know, my sort of story, and, you know, just being a mum, and, you know, everything that I'd been through. But my God, you had some stories to tell. Like, that was, you know, full on birthing experience, and you know, you know,
birth was a lot of fun. Yeah, I was going to just have motherhood from my experience of motherhood, as in of being a mother. Initially, it was going to be a bit of a guide and a bit of a chat about having Darcy and having Pearl, and I quickly realised I couldn't write a story about motherhood without talking about where it came from. And my childhood with my mother was, well, while I had my mother, it was great. For those of you that don't know, my mum died when I was younger, and then a really abusive person came into my life that was a mother figure. So I had to write about that, and those were the biggies. And that's why, although I'm excited for publication tomorrow, I'm feeling a bit like because it will be out there and people will know. So there we go.
Yeah, no, that was traumatic, you know, when you started talking about the abuse, you know, that you suffered as a child. You know, that was very brave. Was that the first time you'd really talked about that in this book?
Yes. I've mentioned it before. Even now, I don't like talking about it. It's just horrible. But now is a really good time to talk about it because I'm in a really stable place personally. So I'm in a very stable relationship and a stable job, and I'm not, you know, having a baby or getting married or getting divorced or moving house or any of those big life things. I'm just sort of sat where I am. Your book, I know, touches on some dark things, and not just a fluffy chick lit. And I love fluffy chick lit, but I'm going to love this even more. I know that you touch on mental health issues and mental health issues in men as well, which nobody ever talks about. I would like to know what made you, well, give a little summary of your book and then why you touched on those topics.
So anyone who's just joining in at the moment, you know, a couple of people have asked where I am. This is beautiful Norway, and I came to Norway a couple of years ago to research my book, If You Could Go Anywhere. And we were supposed to come in our camper van, and our camper van was delayed, so we had to fly. And so I'm just back here doing this camper van trip that I wanted to do a couple of years ago. It's not for book research. But anyway, I'm talking about the minute I saw you, which is obviously back to front right now. So this is the story of Sunny and Hannah. And Hannah is a dispensing optician, and one day, you know, right at the very beginning of the book, you know, this gorgeous hot guy is sort of outside on the pavement. He comes in to get his eyes tested, and there's instant chemistry. There's sort of like, you know, you have to get so up close and personal when you're having your eyes tested. And, you know, she's a good-looking young lady, you know, and he's a gorgeous guy, and there's this sort of like lovely sort of click between them. But Hannah doesn't do long-term relationships, so she's thinking, right, when he comes back to picking up his glasses, she discovered he was a photographer and he was going to go back to Amsterdam the next day, and she just thinks, right, you know, well, maybe something will happen, you know, just for the one night, you know. Not interested in doing anything longer than just a one-nighter with him. Oh my God, this is so funny. The tide's coming in. I'm sitting here, and when I came out here, look, my glass of wine is like sunk into water. I'm gonna have to move. So I'll carry on talking about my book as I get swamped by water. It only went out a little while ago. I was thinking I'll be all right for a bit, you know. I'm just trying to get away from all the people on my campsite because I didn't want to get like, you know, be this annoying madam standing off in the corner of my campsite with my glass of wine chatting away, you know, on my phone. So anyway, I'll go back and rescue my book in a minute. But so basically,
Wow.
when sorry, what did you say?
Don't leave it to drown.
that was the last anyone saw of Paige Toon author. So anyway, when Sonny comes back in to pick up his glasses 2 weeks later, he can't even look Hannah in the eye because something horrible has happened to him, basically. And you know, you discover over time that he's a very damaged soul. And Hannah herself, you know, she has a past which is also quite damaged. You know, neither of them can do long-term relationships, but Sonny's way, he
Isn't it?
What did you say?
Sorry. So I know the thing, but that's coming later in the book. I won't say it. Shall I not say it? I don't know which bit's the secret and which bit.
Yeah, it's don't say it. Like, yeah, there's a couple of big sort of spoilers in this book, you know, which I've really appreciated. The ebook readers have managed to amazingly sort of like keep out of all of the reviews online. You know, they managed to, like, because they're quite big reveals, you know, these two things, but you know, very, very different, the two things that happened to him. I don't think I knew how dark Sunny's story was going to be. But the nice thing about, and why I loved writing this book so much, is that you're never too far away from joy. Like, that, you know, the characters themselves sort of kept it so light, and the chemistry between them was just so lovely that, you know, it was never, you know, you never get too sort of bogged down in misery or anything like that. So yeah, it was, I think that the gap between light and dark in this book is my biggest gap to date. You know, it's, yeah.
So you said there that he was darker, you dealt with some darker issues, and you know me, I'm morbid. I like to know about all the worst things. How did that?
I'm just gonna have to move again because this tide is coming in thick and fast. It's nearly drinking my wine. Sorry, just look at this. Look, there's my camp chair in the water. Thankfully, I've got my waterproof boots on. I'm just going to drink the wine. I'm drinking the wine before I move the chair.
Those won't mind. They'll love it.
Right. Sadly, I've had to throw away that last drop of expensive, not expensive Matisse. The things that could go wrong. I wasn't expecting to almost drown, Louise. I was thinking, you know, the mobile phone reception might be rubbish.
Lengths we will go.
Right, I'm nearly out of what has turned out to be a river. It is literally a river. I'm almost on dry land, and
I doubt Waterstones.
I do think this might be slightly marshland. I think this is going to fill up quite quickly too. So I'm just going to walk and talk at the same time. This will teach me for not just staying at the end of that lovely little pier. I was a bit worried people might go for sunset walks down the end of the pier and see me sitting there on my throne. And
I'm going to come back. I'm going to try and check my internet because I'm getting a lot of comments saying I'm laggy. So I'm going to end, and then I'm going to request to join back in. So bear with.
Let's do this. Okay. In the meantime, I will continue to give you a lovely tour of Norway. It's very nice. This is the river that I almost drowned in. I mean, that is properly coming in thick and fast now. If my husband can see me right now, he's over there on a beach with the kids and the dog, which we brought to Norway with us, having a lovely little campfire. He'll be thinking, what's she doing? This is a bit bonkers. Right, let me just have a look and see if Louise is coming live again. Oh, let's have a look. Having too much fun just talking to you guys. This is an Instagram live you didn't think you were going to see before, isn't it?
Here we go.
There you are. Is
that better?
You are chopping up a little bit still.
Oh. Well,
I was thinking it's going to be me.
No, it's me. It's me.
I can hear you on and off. I just might have to ask you to repeat yourself occasionally.
Okay. Shall we take some questions from the audience?
Yes, that's a great idea. Right.
But
let's have a look and see if anyone comes. I do have a few questions written down in my pad. So if you just hold on a second, I'll just decamp here in the mud.
Are you dry land yet?
here we go. Right. Very hastily written. Right, I think this one might be more for you, Louise. Rosie asks, so I can probably answer this too. What was your most challenging section to write?
This is going to surprise you, but it was not the dead mum or the child abuse chapter. I found those really easy to write because they were very like pouring from the heart. So those were the two chapters that I didn't have a lot of help with. I just wanted to just pour those out myself. But it was actually body confidence because I just found it.
Oh, really? Oh,
I just found it boring. I just found it so boring that we still live in a world where we have to talk about body confidence and women's bodies after childbirth and after breastfeeding. I almost wanted to just say, body confidence, your body's great. And it's not that I find other women talking about it boring. I just find it boring to talk about it because it upset. I don't want to live in that world where it's even a conversation about your breasts change after birth and, you know, your body's still wonderful because it's had babies. Because I just think it should just be ingrained and should just be accepted that your body did something amazing and your boobs might have done something amazing too, and that's the end.
Yeah. Why talk about it? You know, what's the big deal? Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
What was your hardest topic or part?
I didn't find this one hard at all. Like, this one kind of really flew out of me because I had the idea for it. I had the idea basically stem from Hannah's backstory. When I was on my way to Australia last Easter, and I watched this film on the plane, and there's this little mention of these babies at the very beginning of the film. I can't talk about which film it is, but and in fact, at the end of the paperback, I've got to read a Q&A in there. And so for the first time, I can actually talk where the inspiration for this book came from, you know, because obviously everyone's read it by then. So, so Hannah's backstory came from, you know, from this reference to these little babies in this film that I saw. And I was thinking, I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, thinking, what would it be like to be this child in like, you know, 27 years time, you know. But I found that, you know, because I only had the idea 6 months before I wrote it, and then I wrote it in like less than 3, you know, and so that's just, it really flew out of me. Like
in less than 3.
I kind of almost always do, you know, like I find it so much easier to just be completely immersed in a story and just, you know, I've already been thinking about it usually for over a year. And so by the time I come to write it, it's just a case of getting the words down, you know.
Wow.
So it's, you know, it's already so well formulated inside my head, you know, that I just sort of sit down and it practically write, you know, I say it practically writes itself. Obviously I still struggle at points, you know, but so I think the hardest part for this book was just a bit where Hannah has to go down to Australia to see her parents at the end. And I just wanted her to get back to Sonny, because just a little mini spoiler, but basically Sonny goes into therapy, you know, he decides to, you know, have some therapy and to try and help him have these longer lasting relationships. And the first thing that he does is take a vow of abstinence. So he won't have sex with anyone for the next of 6 months to a year. And so the chemistry between these two, you know, when that can't happen. But I knew that after she got back from Australia, he was basically sort of, you know, at the end of his time, you know. So I was kind of just desperate to get them back together again, you know, so they could kind of eventually, you know, get jiggy with it.
Do you like saucy sex scenes, or do you just allude to them? Because I'm an alluder. I can't write it. I just allude. But what about you?
No, I don't just allude to it. Like, there's a little bit more to it than that, but they're not that saucy, you know. Like, but yeah, you know, I would find that a little bit too, you know, too sort of, you know, yeah, you know, I'd find it hard to do that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I found that so hard with my first book. Like, that was the real kind of killer, because it was like everybody was going to be reading that one, you know, all of my old colleagues, you know, obviously my entire family, loads of my friends, you know, it's like everyone's going to be reading it and kind of like judging you on it. It was terrifying. And including my 90-something grandmother-in-law. My husband's granny read it, you know, and it was like, oh, so I was really much more alluding to it in that, you know, in my first book. But I've got gradually braver with my books, and I think this one's probably, you know, possibly my sort of sexiest yet, but it's still, you know, mostly sort of like a building of these relationships and this friendship between them. That's what's just so, that was such a joy to write that, you know, because there's just so much chemistry between these, characters, Hannah and Sunny. They're two of my absolute favorite characters, and if not my very favorite, yeah, they really were. Like, I think that because they go through so much in the book, with their past, and their pasts are just both so sort of troubled and a bit out of the ballpark, that when they sort of finally build this friendship and be able to write that sort of chemistry between them, it was a joy to write. So hopefully that comes across to readers.
My next question is, are you writing number 19 yet?
Not yet, because like I say, I tend to write them in 3 months, so that would mean that I start writing in September and finish at the end of November. I've been doing a bit of research. I'm just thinking on it a lot at the moment. Every time I go for a walk, these characters already feel so strong to me and so real. And this one's set in is set in sort of a bit more of a foster care system, basically. My character, her parents are foster carers, and so she grows up sharing her home with these troubled teenagers, and one teenager in particular, she has like a really close bond to. So it's one I've been thinking about for probably 1.5 to 2 years. So I'm so ready to write it. I just can't wait.
I'm so jealous of your writing technique and how you're like, think about it and then like fire fingers. I wish. Maybe by the time I'm on book 18, I will be, but for right now, I like agonize. It's like painful. I can't think what to write. It takes ages.
Oh no, it's
to be like you as well.
Oh God, well I wish that I was more like you when it comes to the online stuff, because I'm absolutely usually really, really rubbish at that. I'm amazed it's not that's having the sort of like breaking up points.
Me, I'm so embarrassed. The Mummy says Paige's writing technique is incredible, and I would agree with that, absolutely.
Oh, thank you. Right, well I have some more questions here which readers sent into Waterstones. So why did you decide to write your book, Mum Life?
Mum Life, here it is.
I know that you said earlier that such a brilliant book. I know that you said earlier that your publisher sort of suggested writing something like that, but had you ever thought years ago, maybe one day I'll put this in a book?
I hadn't thought of writing a book about being a mother to my children, but I've always wanted to put my mother in a book. I think it's a way of preserving her, honouring her and remembering her. And also in the next book I'm writing, a fiction, what started as like an idea I had of something I would love to happen to me and like my mum has now become a fiction.
Sorry to interrupt, but someone's let my dog off her leash. and my little dog just ran over. I'm like, what is that splashing around behind me? And it is actually my dog. Look at how ridiculous she is, jumping through. Sorry, Louise, carry on. I didn't know you were writing another fiction book.
Yes.
That's so exciting.
So I don't know if I'm about this or not. I don't know.
Yeah, talk about it. Look, and in the meantime, we can see Tessa chasing birds in the background.
Absolutely fabulous.
The fun never stops. My God, where has she gone? She's like
just having a good time.
I'm not sure my husband realizes that she's on her leash and just tearing around. Oh my God, Tessa, come.
I've also write a book about my mum, so that was a big inspiration for this. And then the next one, which I'm not supposed to.
That was such a beautiful chapter talking about your mum, and obviously every time you talk about her, sort of the stories of her woven throughout. I mean, and when you ask people, I did actually, like, in fact, it was the middle of the night in Australia, so I couldn't call my mum, but it just, when you sort of implore people to call your mum, and it oh man, it really, I was like sitting there with tears streaming down my eye, down my face. It was beautiful, really beautifully written.
Thank you. I'm very proud of her. I hope she reads it up in heaven. The next one, an idea. I'll talk about this next year. So
no, I want to hear it now. So this is something that you hoped would happen to you. Is that right? Is it kind of like fan fiction to yourself?
Well, it's so hard to explain. How can I explain this without spoiling anything in the next book? I have always wanted to have an experience where somehow, and this is like not booky, this is just ever since I was little, since Mum died, I wanted to find something that would help me time travel back as an adult to meet my mum as an adult. I only remember her from a child's point of view, and I haven't ever had that adult relationship or friendship with her. And so then I started thinking, could I make that? Could there be characters in a book? Could somebody go back in time and meet someone before they die? And I've never played with time in a book ever in my life. I've never. And I'm very nervous to play with time as well because it's tricky. But the next one, we have a young lady who accidentally plays with time and meets somebody close to her who she doesn't know who it is, and then she works out who it is but the other person doesn't, and then do they, don't they, and I'm still like figuring it out, but I'm really excited because I feel like I was just cutting my teeth with the Wild books, and then this one was a little pause, and this one was just pouring my heart out, so that wasn't, I haven't used up too much creative energy because I've just had to be honest. So I'm really excited to fiddle around with time and death and being reunited and those bonds that, like, have you ever heard the phrase, I wish that there were waiting hours in heaven and you could go up to heaven and just have a visit with someone? Well, yeah. But playing with time.
That sounds absolutely amazing. Like it's given me goosebumps. And your readers, like all the comments that are flashing up, I don't know if you've seen them, but everybody is loving this idea. So you have to write it. Are you thinking? Yeah. Are you hoping it will be out next year? Is that the plan? Like, are you writing over the next year or so?
Yeah, I hope so.
That sounds really emotional. Like, really, like that's going to be a heartbreaker, isn't it?
I love writing about that, like, tragedy and death. I'm so morbid. One day I'm just going to write a really sad book just because I really enjoy that kind of thing. It's very dark. Like my dark heart, Paige, my dark black heart. What's next in your questions that you have?
Right,
from the water
gang. Well, okay, there's a few. What book are you reading now? Bookish Redhead has asked.
Well, I should be reading yours. I am I'm dipping in and out of a really weird book about midwives and health visitors. It's called Handle with Care. It's over there. It's not weird. Wish I hadn't said a weird now because that author's going to be like, much. But it's not what I expected. I thought it was going to be lots of jolly stories about being a health visitor and like midwifery, and it's not. It's a bit more gritty than that. But I'm actually a bit embarrassed at how long it takes me to read a book, Paige. It takes me months to read a book. I'm a very slow reader, and it takes me a long time to take things in. So I wish I could be one of those people that's like, last week I read this and this week I'm reading this. But it takes me a while. What about you? I bet you're reading. I bet you read a book a week easily.
I do read like more now that, you know, the kids are a bit older. Like I found it quite hard to read at the beginning. It's so funny. I keep seeing all of these comments coming up saying, Louise, you're doing live with Katie Hopkins. It's like, oh my God, please don't tell me I look like Katie Hopkins, for God's sake. I just have to say, I still remember, like, hilariously, you know, I used to work at Heat magazine and you know, and just recently I was remembering, you know, how I had to interview Katie Hopkins when she was fired from The Apprentice. I know. And my boss, Mark Frith, was the editor at Heat at the time. And he wanted to just see what questions I was going to ask. And my first question to her was, oh my God, hello, Tessa, hello. Little wet dog. She can't believe she's like free. My first question to her was, you know, how does it feel to be the most hated woman in Britain right now? You know? And my boss said to me, he's like, oh my God, are you going to ask that as your first question? But she, you know, yeah, she didn't care. Like, she's so thick-skinned, she didn't care. So yeah, thank you very much. I'm not Katie Hopkins. Thank you. Other people are saying I do not look like Katie Hopkins. Thank you. I'm pleased to hear this, and hopefully I'm a lot nicer. hopefully I'm a good egg, which I like your phrase that you use in your book quite often. A good egg.
Did you ever see that Joshua Peters made, tricking her to go and take that award? Did you ever see that video? If not, I'll send it.
Oh yeah, no, do send it.
I will. Good one with her
God,
in.
So just back a little aside about, you know, Katie Hopkins and how much I do not look like her. Thank you. Yeah, so basically, I'm at the moment I'm reading a Christina Lauren book. I think it's Love and Other Words or something like that. I literally just started it this evening. So, but I love her. You know, I love their work. It's a writing duo, and they're absolutely brilliant. So they write sort of really sort of just sexy, funny romances, and yeah, I'm kind of the last one I read of theirs was The Unhoneymooners, which is just brilliant. It's really enjoyable. Everybody's reassuring me that I don't look like Katie Hopkins now.
You really put those together, and you are lovely. And I don't know her personally, but she doesn't come across well to me.
Oh, someone else is reading Lindsay Kelk at the moment. Yes, her book came out recently. We did an event with her in Manchester like last year, didn't we? It's the strangest year this year, not being able to do anything live, you know, but for you, you know, you're in your, you know, you're having a great time anyway, aren't you? You're always online doing your own thing, you know, it makes no massive difference. Do you like doing like live events, you know, with like with the one that we did in Manchester? You know, do you like getting out there and sort of meeting your readers, or are you more comfortable behind a camera?
I'm very comfortable behind a camera, but I really like those tours. And also, they've just become a bit of a part of my year. For the last 5 years, I've done a book tour. It's like, it's summer, it's book tour time, and now I feel like I'm missing. It's a bit like missing Christmas. Like,
yeah,
book tour. Where is it?
I know. It's so strange. Will you get back on the road next year?
I hope so. I hope with you and Lindsay.
Oh, yeah, that'd be so nice. I'd love to do another live event. That was brilliant.
One day, when our careers are totally and utterly dead in the water, we should take all of the jokes, the inappropriate jokes. But yeah. Not now.
Not now. Definitely not now. Moving swiftly on. Okay, what do you love most about writing?
I really love that feeling, and I'm sure you know it well, where you know exactly what you want to put onto paper that day, and you just pour it out, and it's like very heavy rain, and it just, you know, that satisfaction of seeing a big, really big storm is that satisfaction of just pouring out and then being like, oh, and then when you're done, you're like, I am done.
Yeah.
That favorite feeling. And I also really like when the book is made into a book and they send you it and you open that box and it's your box of book babies, and that's a good moment as well. What about you?
That's special. I think I love the writing the most, you know, the actual, you know, I feel like reading my books are kind of like they should make you feel like watching a film. You know, I don't think you have to think too much, you know, just to be lost in the story. And I feel like that when I'm writing them, you know, I feel like I'm sort of living vicariously through the characters, and you know, it's really kind of thrilling, you know, especially when they start to sort of take on lives of their own, which happens quite quickly. Pretty about 20,000 words in, you know, everything just sort of starts flying, you know, and you know, just the conversations between them, you know, thinking about them all the time, and you know, sort of fully immersed in it. So definitely the writing for me, I think, is my favorite thing. And I still, you know, because if I see any of my books in a bookshop, you know, or you know, like Apple recently had me on an email, you know, and I just like, that is the weirdest thing, you know, to see, like, out of the 6 books they've chosen to send out, you know, there's your, you know, copy of your book. And I find that really surreal still, you know, it's still a complete pinch me moment, you know, so it's hard, you know. It's my favorite job in the world, basically, apart from being a mum, you know. That was the thing that I always wanted to be when I was growing up as well, you know. But being an author was the first thing I also really wanted to be, you know, when I sort of got a job. So I'm basically living my dream, you know, to be able to write the stories and actually have readers out there. It's kind of crazy, you know.
A lot of readers, especially with 18 books. You'll have to have a massive party or a massive tour for your 20th.
Oh yeah, yes. I will insist.
Do you ever get people come to your tours with all of your books? Because I've toured with you and they come with stacks of all your books. Is it going
Yeah,
to get to a point where people are like, so many books to your
basically
signings?
bringing like a wheelie bag full of books. Yeah, yeah. No, I love it when they do that. You know, it's just, I'm always happy to sign any, you know, as many as anyone brings along. So
Yeah.
it's just an absolute thrill when they go to the effort. Some of them are like going shopping for the day and they're still lugging like 15 books around, you know. It's
Dedication.
pretty amazing. How are we going for time, Louise? Do you reckon we should wrap this up soon?
I think we should. Do you have one last nice wrap up question?
Okay, let me have a look here. How do you come up with your storylines?
So, well, your answer to this will be better than mine, because I've done now two non-fictions and three fictions, and the fictions have only been one long story because it's a continuous trilogy. And at first, I really, really thought about it. But then, like you say, your characters just take on a life of their own. And you think, what would Robin do? What would Kath do? Like, what would Edward do? And it just all happens and falls into place. So for me, that just came. It was just there. Like, they sort of made their own story. And then I just had a block. And I was like, I don't know what to write next. And the time travel-y sort of one came as an amalgamation of me having a conversation saying this is the thing that I would love, like how cool would it be if, and then someone's like, put that into a book. And I was like, no, I already had my other book planned about a girl that works somewhere. And they're like, could you merge those things together and have the place she works and the time travel merged? And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I'll write about. I don't know how you do it so many times. Where do your stories come from?
Well, it just exactly the same way, you know. Sometimes, like, you know, often it's, God, imagine if this happened, you know, and then you've got like an idea for a book, and then something else might happen, and then you're like, oh, well, that could work with that, you know. And in the case of this book, you know, like I had the Hannah's backstory, and that was the thing that made me want to write. The minute I saw you, I should just flash up my book again so people stop thinking that I'm Katie Hopkins. Look, Katie Hopkins didn't write that, okay? Even though it's back to front. Yeah, so, you know, with this one here, you know, I had Hannah's backstory first, you know, what happened to her as a baby, and that was the idea for it. But also, a friend had been to an optician and got all giggly, you know, being up close and personal with this hot optician, and you know, was sort of telling me about the story, and I thought that would be a fun book to write, you know, like just sort of to open a book like that, you know, kind of getting all sort of like getting the giggles basically, and being so close and sort of eye to eye. So there's a lot of kind of eye contact in this book, you know, and the chemistry, you know, that follows. But that wasn't kind of strong enough for me to really make me want to write it. It was when I came up with the idea of Hannah's backstory and just that sort of thought, imagine if, you know, imagine being that character and these, you know, this many years, how would you feel? How would you deal with this? You know, and then it kind of comes together. So ideas come from absolutely anywhere, you know. They come sometimes from like a lyric in a song, you know, like my next one is inspired by an Amy Shark song called Don't Turn Around, and there's this one line in it which is, you know, at a funeral you're 2 rows behind me and it's hard to not turn around. And I just sort of like, that gave me shivers, you know, because I thought that feeling of when you know someone is there who, you know, means something to you, you know. And that was kind of like the idea for the next one, you know. So it just little seeds of ideas come from anywhere, and then other seeds of ideas, and then you join them up, and yeah, suddenly you've got another novel on your hands.
We should do a little screen grab so that I can have this for social media. So if you hold your book up and I'll just have that there and smile, and then everyone in the comments can do a little heart and a hello, and you might be in it. 3, 2, 1. I got it. I got a nice
well done.
heart.
Maybe you can send me that one because I'm rubbish at like trying to capture screen grabs and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you so much. I was just going to say thanks so much for these lovely readers. Thank you, Nicola, for raining on me. Thank you, Tessa, for not jumping on me too much. Thank you, Louise, for getting your internet reception sorted so I could hear you.
Well,
I just lost you then. What did you say?
Well done for not drowning.
Thank you. I do my best. I can't wait to see your face again in person. We should try and catch up. Do like a little social distance in a back garden somewhere. It'd be lovely to see you in person again.
I would love that. Thank you
Mum Life,
so much.
everyone. Mum Life is out tomorrow. Go and get it. It's absolutely brilliant. And this one's also out tomorrow in shop. So
there you go. The minute I saw you. All right.
And lots
of love.
Yeah, thanks to Waterstones for hosting us as well. That was
Thank you, Waterstones.
Nice. All right. Lots of love, Louise. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Cheers.